Total Overdose is an open-world third-person shooter developed by Deadline Games, published by Eidos Interactive for the PS2 and Xbox, and was released in September of 2005. It was met with fairly mixed reviews at the time and saw an average score of 7 out of 10 from most publications. Total Overdose begins with throwing you straight into the action as you play as DEA agent Ernesto Cruz, who is taking on a group of militia in the Mexican jungle. After a successful mission, Ernesto is betrayed, and the official report back home is that he died of an overdose. Years later, his son, Tommy, also a DEA agent, is investigating his father's murder, but is quickly taken out of action with a broken leg, and then has to pull in his criminal brother, Ramiro. Ramiro is tasked with going undercover and infiltrating the gangs of Mexico, performing tasks and getting closer to its leader in the hope of gaining more information on the death of his father. From here you can pretty much guess where the story is going if you've seen any movie ever about the police going undercover and working with gangs. While the story isn't massively original, it is a lot of fun. It's more comedy than it is drama, and it doesn't take itself seriously, making it all the more enjoyable. There are plenty of cliched but colourful characters, the dialogue is cheesy but appropriate for the game's tone, and the plot has enough twists in it to keep you interested.
Boys are not impressed with talk, only action.
So let's talk about gameplay. The best way for me to sum up how Total Overdose plays would be to say if you took Max Payne, made it a lot more over the top and stupid, and set it in an open world based on Mexico. The best part about this game is that it is 100% focused on allowing the player to have a fun time. The majority of the game is straight up running and gunning with a wide variety of pistols, rifles and explosives, and encourages the player to do so in the most stylish fashion possible. If you're not getting the full use of the bullet time acrobatics, then you are playing this game wrong. The ability to jump around and off walls in slow motion does run on a meter, but it refills very quickly, as if the game wants you to live in mid-air, as you empty all of your ammo on the hordes of gang members. In addition to this, you also have access to a few special moves that are great when you start to feel a little crowded. These include such things as a temporary golden gun that kills everything in one hit, a slow-mo spin with just 2 Uzis taking out everything around you, along with other abilities that are both very helpful and just a joy to use. On top of all of this, you also earn tokens that allow you to rewind time, so that once you die, you can rewind back by about 5 seconds and give it another try. The combat is simple but fun. The auto-aim goes a long way in firefights when things get a little frantic, but with enough dodging around you can make it out of most fights in one piece. While the game is set in an open world full of collectibles and stunt jumps to throw your car over, you're not forced to explore this world, as once again the game is focused on having fun and keeping you moving. You do have the option of driving from mission to mission, however you can also simply open the pause menu, select the next available mission, and you will instantly be fast travelled to its destination. This also works for side missions, which are mainly taking out a certain number of enemies while achieving a minimum score for style. As you progress through the game, you gain points for flair and combo kills, and these points unlock upgrades such as boosts to your health and new special moves. Story missions offer up a number of cool set pieces that only get crazier as you work your way through the game, and pretty much every area is designed to blow up with red barrels, cars and gas tanks littered throughout the environments, and Total Overdose even dedicates a button on the controller that is only used to lock on to destructible items. Overall, this is a game that feels like it was designed with the player in mind, and at every turn some developer said, but what if the player just wants to have fun? Total Overdose's gameplay is impressive, however when looking at the game from a technical perspective, it's not so much the case. Don't get me wrong, this game does not look bad or perform badly, but on first glance you might think it was released a couple years earlier in the PlayStation 2 or original Xbox generation, and not 2 months before the launch of the Xbox 360. Now, I understand that not every game can be mind-blowing in the graphics department, but when playing Total Overdose, the quality of its visuals, from its open world to its characters, remind me quite a lot of GTA 3 and Vice City. However, those games came out in 2001 and 2002, not 2005. This is a fairly small knock against the game really. For the most part the game performs quite well, and there isn't any huge drops in frame rate when the action starts to heat up, and the animation could be better, but it isn't distractingly bad. Voice acting is delivered with the right amount of enthusiasm to support the over-the-top narrative, and the main characters do have a few funny and witty lines. I also enjoyed that in certain action set pieces, licensed music seems to kick in to give everything a little more oomph. A lot of the music coming from Mexican or Latino artists, which does add a lot to the game's setting. In conclusion, Total Overdose is a game that offers non-stop and over-the-top action, with plenty of cool acrobatic slow-motion moves and tricks that you'd have to try pretty hard to not have fun with this one. Some could view areas of the game as slightly repetitive, but if you were to focus on just the story missions, you'd probably be able to wrap everything up in about 6 hours, so you'd finish everything before you were bored. This game is not perfect. I see flaws in its animation, it's mostly empty open world, it's occasionally inconsistent targeting, but none of these really impacted my experience because the game just doesn't care and constantly distracts you with something fun to do. There are plenty of open world action games out there, and Total Overdose is not one that you absolutely must own, but it is a game that I highly recommend you play.